So we got here a 2017 Ford Explorer Sport with the 3.5 twin turbo V6. As you can see, I already pulled off the plastic little cover and the oil fill cap. And this hose here, which snakes in from the air inlet to the turbo to the clean side valve cover. I disconnected this electrical connector and I just set it up here for the meantime. I think that is a flow meter, but we'll come back to that one. Next, I got to take off the dirty side, which these are pretty easy to do. You just kind of flip the little plastic piece and then they pop off. Didn't look too dirty. No sensor. So I got, I kind of figured out where the bracket's supposed to go. You take out the air breather box and then remove this screw, which is pretty long, and then you can set this bent piece of bracket that they give you with the long side up, and then it kind of bends down, and then that would be the mounting hole for this part. And then this sits down in that corner like this, and they give you a bolt to hold this together, and then those hoses will all poke out through that little corner area, and then all you got to do is route them to their appropriate locations, and I'll kind of show you where all those go here in a bit. But it took me a bit to find a spot that I could actually mount this thing. Like, it doesn't fit in any of these places or anywhere else that I've seen people mount them at. But down in this corner, the can does fit. And actually, ironically, because you got this little drain valve here on the bottom, it's actually very accessible underneath the car to be able to drain. So this will be like a set and forget kind of installation where you can just drain it every time you do your oil and not have to worry about it again. Alright, so I finally got all the parts on, and I was going to kind of show as I was going, but I figured it's just easier to finish the whole thing up and then show afterwards how it's all routed, because this is what you guys really want to see. So first off, they called for putting their clean side separator billet piece there as per their instruction, which this is all they offered for instructions. Yeah, it's not even a piece of paper, it's like a sticker. But yeah, that of very little use. What they had mentioned though is that in this spot, as this is the reference of the fill cap, you were supposed to install this machined clean side separator. But I was looking at it a little more. It's just a straight through hole. There's no material in there to catch oil vapors to drain them back down. It's really just a fancy right angle fitting. So I thought, one, it doesn't fit, and two, it's just bulky. So I installed a right angle fitting that actually does fit in this area, instead of having to, because it was clearancing issues with the throttle body. So gave up on that. I reinstalled this sensor. I don't know what it does, but it was in line before between this front clean side and the intake hose. So I reinstalled it in the same location so I don't throw any kind of error codes of things being disconnected. Theoretically, it is still acting the same function. I don't know what it tells the car, but it's installed the same, so it should be reading the same. I don't expect to see any kind of errors as a result of it. Effectively, what I only did here was installed a T-fitting in line. Of course, I did it with all new hose, but basically this is the only change. A cut, add a T, and then this T is basically a boost suction to the can, which, as I discussed, is mounted down here. So what I did is I took this hose, put it right up along the front, underneath the latch cable. I installed the check valve inline here. As you can see, it's pointing towards the engine because we will be pulling suction through the can, so the flow will be coming this way. But if we end up having pressure that wants to come back, you want to prevent that. So you always want to have suction pulling from the can. So this is the return from the can back to the suction source, so the check valve flows in this direction. It's really hard to see back there, but the bottom, maybe I can turn the light on. Oh, look at that. So your 3 connectors on the can, your right, your middle, and your left. The middle one's the tall one. These 2 outside ones are the exits from the can, and this middle one is suction to the can. So since we're pulling through the can, this one pulls out and this one pulls out. This one pulls out during boost. This one pulls out during idle. This is constant suction from the valve cover in both boost and non-boost scenarios. So these 2 were straight connectors, clip in, clip in. This one is a right angle connector because I didn't have any more straight ones. To be honest, I don't think a straight would have fit anyway. It's a little bit tight to the fog light housing that sits right here. It does clear though, as you can see there is a gap. So the other 2 hoses, I kind of ran up underneath this intake plastic, and then they come up here. So this is your constant suction to the rear valve cover, and this is your idle suction from the intake manifold. And there's a check valve again on this side, which is bigger. I believe it's bigger to handle higher pressures, because this will see high pressure because it's on the discharge of the turbos. So this will have positive crankcase pressure, meaning, I don't know what the boost of this thing is, but let's say we want to crank it to 15, 20 psi. That check valve has to be able to hold against that 15, 20 psi to prevent air from blowing back down into what is supposed to be pulling suction all the time. So you only want it to flow by pulling suction at an idle state, and when you have boost and it wants to pressure back, that's got to close. So they gave a pretty heavy duty check valve, and it was a good spot to fit back there. You can kind of see everything up on top and tell right away you got it installed the right way. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put the air box back in. These are the air box grommets and the air box intake screws right here, so everything should be clear, not have any interference issues. And I'll start it up and I'll let you guys know how everything's working. Well folks, as you can see, it's running. Started right up, no issues. It should be pulling suction from the intake manifold right now since we're on idle. And it did not throw any codes. It's just got that little light for the hood being open. But yeah, that's that about does it. I'll have to probably give her a drive around block, make sure everything starts working once I put it into load. And I think that's about it though. Thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up. Have a good day.